And live. Exactly. So it says you're live. Right. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone watching. Actually, I'm so excited. To be honest, I cannot even hide it. So, hey, everyone watching. We're broadcasting live on LinkedIn and on YouTube at the same time. We're here today, as we have promised, as we have organized. I think it's one of the first times ever. Like, you have almost the entire team of the core team, the entire core team of the PMBOK guide. Now this is the 8th edition, and we're starting today a series of 5 episodes. Today we're starting episode 1, and of course it has to be with Jesse. It cannot be with anyone else. It has to be with Jesse. Okay, exactly, exactly. He's so surprised. He doesn't know it. So we're gonna have 5 episodes. We're going to announce each one after the other in the next few weeks. So with Jesse, the chair of the core team for the PMBOK Guide 8th edition. But however, this couldn't be possible without Rusbe, to be honest. Rusbe has been so supportive, has been so full of ideas. Really, he really supported this so much. He wanted it to happen. He brought a lot of ideas. I don't know if it was really his idea or my idea, but it was our ideas, both of us. But really great. I think it was his idea, to be honest, to go with almost the entire team. Few weeks back, we had Gabriela Bitina. She was with us. But for the next 5 weeks, we will have I think 8 more colleagues. And today we will start with the chair, Jesse. So Daniel and I, Daniel, guys, everyone, Daniel. He's been with me, and he's still with me in the other series, which we're finishing this week. And we'll finish it this week with one of the key people at PMI, which is Kelly, but that will be on Thursday. So we're finishing that series. We're starting the new one. And honestly, thank you so much, Rosbe. Thank you, Jesse, for your flexibility. And we have prepared a small presentation, Rosbe. I don't know if you want to, should we pull it now? Should we leave it for later? I think people want to hear from you, Jesse, who you are, your involvement with PMI, what you do for a living. People want to hear this from you as well, Rosbe. Really, let's get introduced to the audience, because I think for this series, people are from all over the world. So for the next 90 minutes, or maybe a little more than 90 minutes, we really want to have the most from you, because we're honored to have you. So Jesse, let's start with you. People want to know, who is Jesse Fuel?
Well, first, let me just say, Ahmed and Daniel, it's an honor and a privilege to be on the show. Really grateful for the impact you've had on the community, and my story hopefully will be just one addition to your very impressive portfolio. I myself am based in the US in the Washington, D.C. area. I earned my PMP in 2005.
Wow.
I just completed my 20th anniversary as a PMP, and that was my first involvement. It was actually I had already been working on projects for many years, but it was the beginning of the journey of becoming a proper project practitioner and a project leader over the last 20 years. And I started volunteering with PMI in 2007, 2008. I made the phone call to find out what would it take to form a community around agile project management practitioners. And that led to the first virtual community that the PMI launched. And that first community was around agile practices, methods, and that then led to the PMI ACP certification in 2011. I chaired that. And then shortly after that, I was a part of the software extension to the PMBOK guide, which was related to the 5th edition. And then I co-authored the content for the 6th edition, and I was on for the Agile Practice Guide, which is currently doing a refresh for the 5th anniversary Agile Manifesto that's coming in February. So look for the new Agile Practice Guide, which is going to be very exciting. And then I served on the core team 4 or 5 years ago for the 7th edition. So I was one of a handful of people that had continuity from the 7th edition team to the 8th edition team. And also involved in my local chapter in Washington D.C. for here and there for a little bit, and so that's kind of been my involvement with the community on a global scale. I had the privilege to work and talk and speak and collaborate in over a dozen countries, and also wrote the project manager column in PM Network magazine for about 10 years, the Agile Project Manager, which was translated into 7 languages. So it's been a fun ride,
Wow.
gentlemen. It's been, it's sometimes energizing and other times soul crushing, particularly after the 7th edition was released. Then, and as a day job, I've been kind of applying a lot of these learnings as a consultant. Have run a small project management agile consulting firm for about 10, 11 years. But these days I'm working in the defense world as an embedded digital transformation leader. So that's a little bit about me. It's kind of the longer version of the story.
It's fine.
So now I'm going to tag my co-conspirator, Rusba. So tell the audience about yourself, friends.
Thank you, Jesse. Hi, everyone. Wherever you are joining from, it's great to be here and talk about what we have been done for almost 2 years. Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you, Daniel, for hosting this series. And Jesse, it's truly an honor to be here with you. I think I learned a lot from Jesse. His leadership, his support throughout this journey was fantastic. And I'm really excited about this series, especially because we will have most of the core team here. I think every member of the core team has its own story, and I think it's very excited to hear from their own their perspective, their version of the story from different part of the PMBOK. And I want to say hello to every of those if they are watching us. My name is Rusbe. I'm working in the field of project management for more than 25 years. I have been in various industries, mega projects, small projects. I was involved in oil and gas construction, upstream, downstream, pharmaceutical, automotive, financial, hardware, software, e-commerce. One of my challenges, one of my favorites, is going through industries because I want to experience the challenges. And these challenges are different. There are different experience in different part of the industry. So I would like to learn as much as I can. I got my PMP in 2012, so almost more than 14 years. So I was involved with PMI, I think about 10 years. And I was lead content developer for the business analysis for practitioner. It was the first time I was involved in a core development team. And the PMBOK was my second experience, and I think it was fantastic. I really liked the journey, and I'm really excited to talk about what happened during these 2 years.
Great. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. And Rusbe, back to the question: should we proceed, or should we bring on the few slides we prepared so we can follow through?
We can start from the first slide. Maybe the first slide will be an opening, talking about the development team. Maybe that would be great.
Yeah. All right. So I'm just going to share. Just a second. Yeah, go in here. Good. All right. So let me just bring this on camera. Yeah. So do you see my screen, everyone?
Yes.
Good. So, all right. So we're going to, just we didn't do this before, honestly. Like, having a presentation just once. It was with one of our guests, but really because there are so many things people are thirsty to know. Really, I mean, let me tell you, give me a little background, Ruzbeh and Jesse. We received many questions.
Mm.
What you guys are going to talk about? Are you going to touch on this point, that point, etc.? So you know what? Druzbe and I had a talk, and we said, let's try to organize the thoughts. We prepared questions from our side. We looked at the questions from the people, and we tried to consolidate that in a few slides, just to have it a little structured and help people follow through. Okay. So, if Ruzbe, you see my screen, everything's fine, right?
Yes, it's fine.
All right, good. So, okay, guys. So let me start with this. Jesse, I mean, amazing, really amazing career with PMI. Seriously, like I really enjoyed every word you said, and you've been involved a lot with PMI. When it comes to PMBOK 8, what was the process for selecting the team, based on what exactly, the entire process, how long did it take, etc., so if you can walk us through that, if you want, you or Rusbe, either one of you.
Yeah, I'll. This one is my territory because of the process that we used in order to find and choose Ruzba to be on the team is it's a fairly standard process for that PMI uses for all of its standards. The first step is where the staff, the PMI's headquarters staff, gets together and they start preparing for the next edition of a standard, whether it's the Agile Practice Guide, which I mentioned is coming out in February, or whether it's the 3 AI practice guides that were produced in 2025. The staff starts putting together a roadmap. They start putting together a set of success criteria. What do we want this product to look like? And then they begin asking, who do we want to be the chair? And so it starts first with the selection of a chairperson. And by virtue of me having been involved in the 7th edition and doing a lot of promotions around the 7th edition, and having been involved in the 5th, 6th, and the 7th, but specifically on the core team of the promotions for the 7th, the staff reached out to me and asked me if I'd be interested in leading the team for this effort. And of course, I was surprised and honored and said yes. And there was an effort to find a co-chair. That is common. It is common practice for there to be two co-chairs for standards like this. But every single person we approached who I believed were qualified and had the credibility were simply not able to serve because of their other commitments. And so what that meant is that I had to rely much more on the volunteers than other leaders and other chairs have to. I really had to work with the staff to set some expectations. Like, we're going to have a high bar. We're going to have a very high bar for who we're going to invite onto this team, and they need to be people that can just take this and run and build content and verify content and look at the details. And so step 1 is that a chair is selected. Step 2 then is that a call for volunteers is issued on the volunteer website. PMI has a volunteer website where they post opportunities to serve on committees, opportunities to serve on standards. And we had several hundred applications for both the development team and the review team. This was a double-blind process where 12 volunteers would be selected to serve on the core development team. They would draft content, and they would have no visibility into the individuals on the review team, who were another 12 volunteers who would review each and every iteration. We were running in 2-week cycles, Rizba, is that right? These were 2-week iterations. Yes. in order to draft content, review content, draft content, review content. And neither one of the volunteers knew who the others were in order to maintain, in order to minimize bias. Because people did not realize the chair of the 7th edition was on the review team, Cindy Dionisio. And people did not realize her co-chair for the 7th edition is now on staff at PMI and was serving as an executive advisor. And so what we didn't want was the volunteers on the dev team to know that these project management luminaries were involved in the project, such that they would be intimidated to write content and then, oh, Cindy says this was wrong, so I have to accept Cindy's. And so we needed to make sure there was a blind development process. And each candidate explicitly applied to either the dev team or explicitly applied to the review team. I remember there was one German practitioner who expressed interest in the development team, but then chose to apply to the review team because he felt that his English skills were not at the level that he would want to contribute to the development team. And of course, he ended up being one of our most impactful and influential reviewers. And so it wasn't a barrier for him at all. It was just his personal preference that he chose for one versus the other. We interviewed, I think, about I'm skipping a step. So hundreds and hundreds of applicants. The first phase was to screen the resumes and the profiles that were submitted. The staff would check to confirm, did you answer the questions in the application? Did you answer them at all? So there were hundreds of applicants who did not fully complete the application. And so there was a quality check on that. And then there were well over 100 resumes, profiles, and responses that the product manager, Josh Parrott, he and I had to sift through them and say, okay, who do we want to interview here based on their profile? And we were looking explicitly for people who had experience in standards, particularly around project management. There were some who worked on ISO standards. There were some who worked on the translation team for the 6th edition or the 7th edition. There were some who worked in their country advocating for the implementation of the PMBOK guide. And so that to us was relevant experience that we looked for. But then there were others who had not worked on standards before, but were leaders in their community and had a pulse and a connection to the state of the profession. We were also intentionally looking for global representation. We had across both teams, we had representation from 5 continents and well over 24 countries, or well over a dozen different countries. The U.S. representation was intentionally minimized. We wanted this not to be the American body of knowledge, but a global body of knowledge. And so Josh and I selected maybe about 30 to 40 candidates for interviews. And it was very clear in those interviews who was going to be an effective collaborator and who was doing this to improve their resume. And so intention mattered. And it showed for some people that there's one, there's one story where Gabriella in particular was technically was like it was touch and go as the deadline for a submission was approaching, and so she just submitted her application just in time, and Josh and I were not another person, and she ended up being one of our favorite people, and we invited her to the team. So it starts with the chair. Then we open up to hundreds and hundreds of applicants that are filtered by their technical completeness. Then we looked at resumes and invited interviews. And then from those interviews, we selected the team to be globally represented. 50% women and men was another fun and exciting pattern that emerged out of the selections.
Wow. Wow. So just I really loved hearing that. So because myself, I noticed, and I think the community noticed, it's so international this time. The core team, yeah, almost 50-50 women, men, etc. The background of the people, besides the activities, besides the standards which you have mentioned, was there a particular focus on which industry each volunteer comes from?
We made a very explicit effort, much the same having global representation. So anytime we saw a non-American, we wanted to pay extra attention to them. And I'm being a little bit biased here, but there are a lot of American candidates, and we wanted to make sure that we heard from everyone from various countries and language backgrounds and industries. So we explicitly were, whenever I saw someone with Rizbo's profile who's been in petrochemical, who's oil and gas, we paid attention to that. There were a number of people that did have agile backgrounds and IT backgrounds.
Yeah.
But I would say less than half of the team, Rizbo, if you would agree with me, less than half would call themselves agile practitioners. Every one of them had familiarity with agile methods.
Yes.
It's hard to be a PMP today. It's hard to be an agile or a project management practitioner without some awareness of agile methods.
Right.
Because it's becoming so popular in marketing industries and in financial industries and in product development with MVPs. But I would say less than half would call themselves agile practitioners. So there was one who builds museums. Gabriella builds ships, sea vessels, and then Rich Rinaldi works in a PMO in a nonprofit space. And so there was a lot of different representation. So regarding the agile concerns, I think the concern was twofold. Number one, the 7th edition. The 7th edition arguably revealed some agile bias. And we don't want to talk about that just yet. There's more slides to talk about that. And so naturally there would be a concern that the 8th edition would have a similar bias. The second reason I think people have suspicions is because of my personal background. I've been a licensed instructor with the Scrum Alliance since 2009. I co-chaired the PMI ACP. I was on the core team for the Agile Practice Guide. That was a collaboration between the Agile Alliance and the PMI. And so I have been an agile advisor, practitioner. And so there's a natural concern that I would bring my bias to the project. And what's interesting is that the first draft of the standard, the review team came back and said, "You have no agile in here. What happened?" There was some very strong criticism that we were going back to that it was a copy paste of the 6th edition. Like, what are you people doing? This is not what the project was about. And so we got some very firm criticism on our very earliest drafts that we needed to be much more thoughtful about bringing a balanced perspective, because we were overcorrecting, we were overcompensating.
Right. Thank you. But Rusbe, if I may ask, I think, as Jess has said, so many people involved. I mean, let's talk about the core team. I mean, 12 people, different backgrounds. When I say backgrounds, I don't mean countries and languages only. I mean mainly industry backgrounds. Okay. Jesse himself said he's got strong background in agile. And honestly, we cannot deny the necessity of having an agility or an agile mindset and agility in our projects, because that's what the market, the technology, and the reality, that's what they mandate. So I expect that there were some, let's say, differences, between or among the core team members, different views, different ideas, probably that even sometimes escalated some hot discussions, because each one of you wanted to make sure that this PMBOK guide is going to really deliver to the world what the world has been waiting for long, something more sophisticated, more advanced, more real, and more adaptive to the realities of the project management, the product development, the different industries. So if there were ever any conflicts, any diverse ideas, any differences in the way the people think and brought or presented their ideas, how was that resolved or managed?
Let me add something. I think part of this question is Jesse's job to answer, because he was the person who involved in solving the conflict. But before that, I can say the PMBOK core team is one of the most diverse team that PMBOK ever had, because I think the diversity was fantastic, was beautiful, from different countries and from different and several in various industries. And that brings a very, very holistic perspective. And also it caused conflicts, because people from governmental, non-governmental environment, different countries, even in same sector or same industries, but with different experiences, may cause to have different perspective on some aspects. So when we were anonymous for more than two years, we couldn't say that we are part of development team. But I was seeing many posts, many rumors on the LinkedIn that most of development team are from agile background, from IT background. When we had the first draft for the review, and now also we see some of those on the LinkedIn. But first of all, I want to say, no, it is not. And you will see each of the development team member and their background. But regarding the conflicts, you have to know that we didn't in agreement. We aren't in agreement in every aspect. We had conflict on several topics, and sometimes it took more than 4 weeks. And I would like to hear from Jesse, because he served in review team, lead the review team, and also the development team, and also there were conflict between these two teams and also in the development team. And I knew that we had several conflicts, specifically when we got comments. I had the experience before. When you got comments from people, it is about having many challenges, many criticisms on every aspect you have done. So you have worked on the PMBOK for more than 1 year, and now you have very, very different comments with different wordings. So I would like to hear this from Jesse, myself too. How did he manage these conflicts?
Well, so there are a couple of interesting points. One, so Josh, the product manager, who's the PMI staffer, who led the project from a PMI perspective, and myself were between the dev team and the review team. Remember, they were double blind. They could not speak to each other. They did not know each other. Instead, one would deliver some content and the other would deliver feedback and insights and inputs. And so Rusba's telling about the friction that happened whenever the feedback would come back. And the feedback would come back to him and say, Rusba, what is a project management mindset? What are you talking about? And no one's ever talked about this or heard about this. Everyone on the team contributed to the project management mindset, which is a new feature in the PMBOK 8th edition. But Rusba was very much the facilitator of that conversation, trying to move forward the idea that project management is not just about what you do, it's about how you think. And immediately the feedback from the review team was no. And so what do you do with that? And we had to have some discussions. We had to say, okay, what's the truth in this feedback that's more than just an emotional reaction? But so that's one dynamic. And Ruzba mentioned that very accurately, because that was one level of friction. And we'll talk later about the reaction from the community, never mind just the reviewers. But inside the dev team, the people that are going to be coming onto your show, Ahmed, this was a very collaborative group. I would say this is one of the highest performing teams I've ever had the privilege of working with. There, and I attribute it to the selection process. One of the all-time great management books, if you're listening and you haven't heard of this book, the book is called Good to Great by Jim Collins. It's a management classic. And one of the principles that he offers around effective management is first, who, then what. First, you decide who is on the bus. Then you decide where the bus will go. Who is on the project is more important than what the project is going to do, the plan. The plan itself is the plan. If you have talented professionals, they should be able to execute the plan. But that's the key. Do you have talented professionals? And many of us as project practitioners, we don't have the luxury of choosing who's going to be involved in the project. It's usually that toxic leader, or it's that very senior professional who wants to go into retirement, or it's this junior person who doesn't have any training. We don't have the privilege of choosing. I had the privilege of choosing. And so when you're undertaking a project of the kind of global impact and the complexity that we're talking about with a standard like this, take every asset you have. Whenever you're working, and Daniel and Ahmed, you know this, working on complex projects, what are the assets you can bring to bear? And if one of those assets is you have the luxury of choosing who to bring on the project, use it. And I think that served us again and again. There were definitely differences of opinion. There was a very active debate about procurement. Is procurement a fundamental expectation of most projects most of the time in the role of and the proposal was maybe in the past, but in today's marketplace, procurement is very often conducted by a separate organizational department, a separate function, where project practitioners need to be involved in it. They need to be aware of it. But are they the ones that are signing the contracts? Are they the ones that are doing the vendor selection? Are they the ones that are submitting invoices or collecting invoices or paying invoice? Not necessarily. And so that was a very active debate, but just the collaborative DNA we had on the team allowed that to be a proper debate and not an ego contest. And so that was very rewarding. And all of the guests that you have coming onto your in the future episodes, Ahmed, you're going to get a taste of their collaborative dynamic and their charisma. And these are just people you want to work with. So look for that in the next episodes.
I'm sure. I'm really certain, like really. And I really appreciate what you said. And I really appreciate the effort Ruzbe has put into this. And I really appreciate the explanation. Now it made things really clearer. And I hope this video will spread across LinkedIn and the other platforms. So really, once for all, people now will they just had the explanation from you guys, the clarification, and how was the selection process. And Jesse and Ruzbe, I think when you teamed up, all of you guys, you probably, one of the first things you start looking at is what was the people's feedback on PMBOK 7, what were the gaps in the PMBOK 7, the pitfalls, what were people complaining about, especially like people who've been in the industry for long. Now, because, let me be honest, I teach people who have been project managers and following PMI for like more than a decade, since PMBOK 5 and 6, at least, these two, okay, at least since 2013, at least, and people who know PMI after 2021, with the PMBOK 7. And there are different views here between these people. So I really, people want to know, did you start with, look at PMBOK 7 saying, okay, this is what people didn't like, these are the pitfalls, the gaps, and these are the problems we want to address in the next version, which is PMBOK 8. Did you start with that?
Well, Ruzba, I'm going to ask you to, I want to invite you to share your perspective. Imagine being a volunteer who saw the PMBOK 7 and saw how controversial it was and wanted to make an impact in the 8th edition. There was one, Sylvie was one of the reviewers, and she said that she was so upset by the 7th edition, she said she had to volunteer for the 8th. And so imagine being one of those people, and then you come into the first kickoff meeting, and then Josh and Jesse are presenting all the data. Rosba, what do you remember first hearing, and what was your first reaction to saying, what are we going to do?
Yeah. I really remember the first kickoff meeting. Actually, I couldn't be there. I was there virtually. And when I heard that what we are going to do, it was very, very enjoyable with me, because what Jesse mentioned, as an audience of PMBOK 7, I think PMBOK 7 is full of inspiration, but without mechanics. So there are very, very good things. There are very advantages, but I think it is not all we need to have in the PMBOK. There are much more. So when I heard that what we are going to have, it was very, very inspired for me, and we were very happy to see. There were there was many discussions about the PMBOK 7. Every person gave their review on PMBOK 7. What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? And I think it was some consensus about what we are going to do in PMBOK 8.
Okay.
In particular, what I remember, so there were 10 of us were in the kickoff meeting in Los Angeles, and there was one American, and then there was also Rosba, who were unable to attend in person. They were there virtually, and Josh just walked through the data. 75% of all project managers across the world believed that we should keep principles, but we should refine them. There was some feedback that said there's too many, and there's duplication. Why do we have a quality principle but also a quality domain? A complexity principle but also a complexity domain. It's confusing. 70%, and these are estimates, but it was consistently 3/4, 70 to 75% of the practitioners kept coming back, and they said they wanted their processes back. To Ruzba's point, the 7th edition had a lot of mechanics, methods, models, and artifacts, but it was just there. There wasn't the level of organization around the mechanics that people wanted, the way that there was with processes. And so they said, yes, we want both the principles and the processes. So there was a survey that went out that had that yielded over 10,000 data points as to what the community wanted in the 8th edition. Another one that came back was that they wanted the substance of the knowledge areas to come back, and the process groups. They wanted all of that to come back, but they also wanted to make sure that there were a lot of concrete examples and illustrations. And so it was all very data driven, because the 7th edition was so controversial. We could not rely simply on the verbal feedback or the written feedback. We needed to have some quantitative data around it. And so I remember, for example, we are not going to re-import the 6th edition knowledge areas. We're going to preserve performance domains
Mm.
And I remember there was one person on the core team who just had a visible reaction, like, but that's the whole reason I'm here, is to bring back the 6th edition. The whole reason I'm here is, and you could just see, and I had to say, this is the job. So PMI has laid out exactly what the framework is for a standard. You'll notice in the recently released program management standard, and all the other performance domains is the new language for all of PMI standards. It's not merely about knowledge areas. It's about performance and results. And for each one of those performance domains, we've defined what are the results that you're getting for with respect to scope or finances, for example. So data-driven is the key theme. The most data-driven PMBOK in history.
Makes sense. It makes absolutely sense. Now we understand. So from knowledge areas to performance domains, because it's no more about knowledge, what you know, it's about how you perform, what you deliver, and you also So also the process groups now are called the focus areas. No more the process groups as they used before to be before for long. What was the reason, like from process groups to focus areas, particularly?
There was there were two motivations. Primarily, it was to emphasize that these 5 dimensions of project management are universal regardless of process.
Right.
So when you call planning a process group, that makes it sound like planning is mostly just process based. And it's not. It's about alignment. It's about clarity. It's about decision making. And so what we wanted to emphasize was that initiating, planning, executing, monitor, control, closing are all fundamental to every project, all projects, all the time, every industry, regardless of which processes you use. And that is a change in the industry relative to when the PMBOK was first imagined in the late 20th century. In the late 20th century, there was a lot of formality around processes with ISO 9000, Six Sigma, and in the IT world, CMMI, and so that was the state of the industry in the late 20th century. Well, we're a quarter century into the 21st, into the 2000s, and now what we're seeing is that project management has different levels of formality. And some projects use process control. Others use more informal practices or just rely on organizational policies. So that was number one. Number two, by renaming it from process groups to focus areas, we wanted to emphasize that you should be focusing on planning, not merely performing processes. But also we wanted to avoid the historical perception that the PMBOK guide is very prescriptive, that the PMBOK is very strict and inflexible. And the 7th edition was given that band-aid, and the pendulum swung too far. And so we wanted to find the balance. How do we have a non-prescriptive PMBOK guide that still emphasizes best practice?
I want to add one more thing. Because we had the discussion in the development team, there are always some debate about the process groups, because process groups can apply everywhere. When you put some process together, this will be a group of processes. And also, always people mixed up process group with project life, project phases. So there are always some misunderstanding on these. But when you, as Jesse mentioned, there were several discussions on the renaming and what will be a good name for that. But when you are talking about focus area, it means we are talking about planning, not just some specific processes that needs to be there. It is about planning. And as Jesse mentioned, it gives some flexibility. So focus area is about an area that the focus is on the planning or focus is on the execution. And there are lots of tailoring. You can have several processes, more or less processes. So there are always some criticism on the name of process groups, and I think that's why we did this change. And I know when you change something, there are always some against and some for change.
Right. Thank you both. So I think since we're talking now about what changes have been brought into the PMBOK 8, I think we can start with one of the most visible changes and one that has been circulating on LinkedIn now for the past 2 weeks, which is the definition of the project. So from a temporary endeavor undertaken to produce a unique product or service result to being a temporary initiative in a unique context undertaken to produce value. I think that's a big shift. From my perspective as a project management practitioner, that's what really I wanted since at least the 5 years at least. I wanted to hear that definition. So how did you get there, Jesse? What did it take, really to make that 20-year-long standing definition to become now a new one that probably fits with what companies and markets are really in need of?
So I'm going to start with the big story, and then Rosaba's going to talk about the details.
Right.
The big story, we did not plan for this.
Okay.
This emerged during the middle of the project. We were about halfway through, it was about halfway through the project.
Yes.
I think we were almost complete with the standard. And as we were wrapping up things like the principles and feeling good about them, and then there was the system for value delivery. Okay, feeling really good. The PMI came to us as volunteers and said, we have a surprise. We cannot tell you any details because we need to preserve the lack of bias. We need to preserve a clean slate. So we cannot tell you what the details are, but we've just completed some research that leads us to think that we should reconsider these definitions that are 40 years old. The definition of a project first came in the draft of the PMBOK guide, which was a special edition of the Project Management Journal in 1986. So even before the first edition of the PMBOK was launched in 1996, there was a 1986 draft. And in that draft is the first appearance we see of a project as a unique endeavor undertaken to create a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. That has not changed since 1986. And then PMI came to us and said, there's been some new research. We can't tell you what it is. We can't tell you what it says. All we can ask is that you consider. And we all looked at each other like, oh, what does that even mean? What are you talking about? And what should we do? So we started examining this. And Rich Rinaldi, who I think you have on the coming episode, he said, in the middle of this, he said, stop. I feel like we're changing the Bible. I feel like we're changing the Quran. Like, are we permitted to do this? Is this something that is, this is scripture. This is the Bhagavad Gita. You cannot change the text. And so that was the story. And so by simply challenging us to think, to ask, what is the state of the marketplace in this century relative to the previous century? I mean, we're talking about a half century ago is when these words were first being formed. It's like things have changed. It's time to ask ourselves, what is the state of project management in today's industry? So let me ask you, Riz, why initiative instead of endeavor?
Yes, good questions. When we were talking about endeavor, we are from different languages. from different countries, and one of the problem we had is about what is the meaning of endeavor in our languages. We have problem with two terms. One is about the stewardship, because we didn't know how to translate the stewardship in, and it wasn't just me in my language, also other people in their language that had some struggle with that. And endeavor is a bit sounded academic, ambiguous. So when we were talking about what could be a best word to describe something that can fit the project, then we come to initiative, because the initiative is more strategic, is more portfolio, it's aligned more with portfolio language. And I think it is about a structured, a strategic effort you are going to do in the organization. So that's why we come to initiative instead of endeavor.
Good.
In particular, Gabriele, who's
The other
Lithuanian.
thing is about the word product. I mean the unique product.
It's become context now. It's become context. It was changed with context.
I think Ruslan might be having some.
Yeah. Yeah. So just, I mean, wow. I mean, it's an interesting story we didn't know about, definitely. So now, since the definition has changed, what does it exactly mean that, in project management now, to meet or exceed the intended value? And the question is, has the value been quantified somehow?
Yeah, these definitions. It was such an eye-opening moment. So remember, they challenged us to reconsider, and we discussed a lot about what's changed in the marketplace. And the marketplace is that projects. That a project is undertaken not merely to deliver a thing, but to ensure that the thing yields a result, a benefit. And there was a lot of conversation about all the terminology, outcome, benefit, value, and what's the difference between all of that. And it hurt my brain. But the key point is that for 40 years, we've been saying that the point of a project is to deliver a product, service, or result. It's the mindset of our profession has been get it done, right. Build the thing, as opposed to why. Why are we even doing this project? And what we're seeing in the 21st century is that more and more the project manager is expected to have the answer. Traditionally, we've been assuming the sponsor would be able to answer the question, why should we do this project? What is the value proposition? Where is there ROI? If it's not a financial ROI, is there a social ROI or an operational benefit? Can you articulate that, sponsor? Many times today, the answer is no. I mean, how many of you in the audience have worked for a project sponsor who simply can't answer the question, why are we doing this? Because my boss said so. Or because compliance requires us to. Okay, why does the compliance regulation say that? Why is your boss mandating that? Ask the next question. And we're finding more and more again, only the project managers are the ones that are skilled enough to ask these questions.
Right.
And because of that, meanwhile, it wasn't until after we delivered our final draft in October of 2024, we delivered our final draft. So the last year, it's all been publishing activity that's been happening. And right after we delivered our final draft, Pierre Lemaine gets on stage at the Global Summit in Los Angeles, and he announces to the world the new results of their project success research, where they have defined project success as the state of a project being perceived as delivering more value than effort. Was the project worth doing? And there was the Global Project Success Index that found that only 47.5% of all projects worldwide met that threshold. So half of our projects were not even worth doing at the end. And so he has been challenging our entire profession to think about more, MORE. That's an acronym about changing our mindset. And this research valued or validated that, independent of our own new definitions in the PMBOK guide. So there was this very cosmic convergence of these things coming together independently at the same time. We had the project success research that was coming in. We had this new challenge for us to rethink definitions. And we also have the culture at PMI demanding more MORE from our profession because the marketplace is demanding more from our profession. So that's why the focus switched away from just building a product, service, or result to understanding why we're building the product, service, or result.
So
that is part of the project.
So Jesse, sorry, but I have a little technical question is there a mechanism somehow how that value, which is expected to be created and delivered, is there some sort of mechanism how to really square it, how to quantify it, how to calculate it to be sure that the project manager will really deliver this and he or she needs to deliver this?
So in the finance performance domain, in the guide, in the body of knowledge section, there's some considerations around, there's some discussions around a return on investment. The financial value is the easy case. What are the labor savings? What are the cost savings? What's the new revenue that we can generate from this new product, as one example. However, there is absolutely in the system for value delivery in the standard a set of discussions about understanding the intent of what we're building. So for a project that is meant to boost sustainability with respect to environmental health, how many metric tons of carbon are we removing out of the atmosphere? For a nonprofit fundraiser, how many new donors are we going to recruit with our new marketing project? How many committed dollars are we going to be getting from those donors? In an efficiency project about a new policy or a compliance project. In a compliance project, the value would be the percentage of employees that are compliant with the policy based on our efforts. And so it's really just fundamentally, can you conceive of a metric for the business case? If you don't have a metric for the business case, then I would contend that you need more work to do. And it's very context specific, which is why it's elusive. This is where one of my critiques of the Agile community. The Agile community has spent the last 25 years talking about value, but has given zero guidance on how to measure value.
Correct.
And that's been an inconsistency that's bothered me. But the PMBOK guide is not the place for me to recommend metrics for the marketing industry. It's not the place for me to recommend metrics for the nonprofit community. It's meant to be industry specific and even project specific, but it is an obligation.
Right. So, okay, you didn't mind criticizing that. I really appreciate that. If Rusbe, are you back with us?
Yes, I'm back.
Now, is there any confusion between the role and the responsibilities of the project manager and kind of, I wouldn't say similar, but closer roles like the business analyst, business manager, portfolio manager, product manager? Okay, so with this new PMBOK, does it clarify that boundary? Does it set boundaries? Does it bring them closer? Does it create any unrealistic expectations for project managers because of the, let's say, the level up or the evolvement we have? How would you answer that?
I heard about that a lot, and I think it is not a valid debate because we had value in the previous version. We mentioned that projects needs to create value, and also we had it in PMBOK 7. It is the intention of the project to create value, not just a product, not just a deliverable. We create deliverable to give us some capability to create value. And I think we need to distinguish between the project success and the project management success. I think these two are totally different. And I think when people argue about the project manager's expectations, they're talking about the project management success. And the other part is, although the portfolio manager is accountable about the value in the project, I think the project manager needs to share some responsibility, needs to take some responsibility about that. And that's one of the aspects of the project management mindset, which we call it ownership. I think project manager needs to take some ownership, needs to put it in the mindset that the project needs to create some value. And I think that's why we have some emphasis on the value, because we want the project team to take some ownership regarding the value. And we know that the projects are going to deliver some deliverables, product, service, which in result we will have some value. But we need to put it in the DNA of the project, that what is the why that the project initiated. And that's why the emphasis is on the value in the PMBOK 8. And I think we had it in the PMBOK 7, we had it in the PMBOK 6, but in the PMBOK 8, we just highlight the value in the PMBOK.
Great, right. Okay. Since we covered most of the points here, I don't know, Jess, if you want to add anything before we move on to take the last and the big part, which is about the principles. Is there anything you want to add here, Jesse?
Yeah, I want to move to the next one. Let's move to, yeah, because this first question came up in the community feedback. Why did this necessary? No, there was the one that was the unreasonable expectations. Was that on the previous slide?
Yeah, the previous one.
Yeah.
Jesse, I want you to answer this question, I think.
Yeah, there was one commenter who quoted a specific section that said that project managers are best positioned to be the advisors to the sponsor on what are the trade-offs of the choices. What's the impact to this initiative if we choose this vendor instead of this vendor? What's the impact if we choose this strategy versus this strategy? Also, you're the primary, you're the champion, you're the face of the project in many cases. And so that means that we need to put some of our executive hats on sometimes. And then sometimes we have to be the ones to aid the sponsor with the business case because they can't do it. And so we don't need to be experts in all of these disciplines, but we need to be aware that we fill the gaps. And one of the commenters said, this sounds like the Avengers. Like, are we supposed to be Superman or Superwoman with our capes flapping, flying through the air with all the superpowers doing everything? And the answer is yes, depending on the context. So on this project over here, they need a technical expert in materials engineering to run the project because we don't have a technical expert in materials engineering for this conduit product that we're building. But over here on this project, we need someone who's very strong in communication skills because we have the technical experts who don't know how to speak to executives. But over on this project, we need someone that has a strong understanding of operations and what is the value of making operations more efficient and more compliant because none of them have any business acumen. And each project is different. And you might be the project manager who has to shift their stance to being business acumen in this project, or technical acumen in this project, or executive presence in another project. And so you should not be all those things all the time, but you should be the project manager your project needs, not the project manager you prefer to be.
Right. Exactly.
So that was my our take on the unreasonable expectations.
Right. Right. We touched on the principles a little bit earlier. We went down from 12 principles into six. You a little bit emphasize on the rationale behind that, right? Have there any practical examples or case studies, showing how these principles are really applied on real projects? Now we're talking about the six principles, no more about the 12, but the six, because the previous 12 ones, some of them, have been replaced or, merged into new principles, or probably some of them with the same name, like, the PMBOK 7, some of them are covered by some processes in that mapping table. Okay. So what was the mindset behind this change for the number of principles? If you can go a little, deeper in details, because we have on the next slides, you can see here, we have even, we took the extract from the PMBOK 8, and we tried to show, how the principles of the 7th edition were condensed or merged, sometimes, in one principle, the PMBOK 8, sometimes in a process, or sometimes in a performance domain, etc. So one of you, if you want to start with that, please.
Ahmed, before that, I want to go to the mindset and then go into the principles.
Right.
I don't know if Jesse want to start or
no. Rusba was the primary facilitator of the conversation around the project management mindset. So I think we would like to hear, how did that emerge, Rusba?
I was involved in several projects, and I saw several failures, not in small companies, in big and famous companies. And I was thinking, what don't we have? We don't have technology, we don't have software, we don't have tools, we don't have knowledge, we don't have knowledgeable persons or people, we don't have processes. I think some famous companies, I don't want to name those, but we saw some big and several failures from those companies. They have all of those. And I think we made people to do something mechanically, and they didn't think. We need to change the mindset. We need to add something to the mindset of people so they know why they are doing something. So the mindset concept is going to emphasize some key aspects, some key dimension that I think every project managers need to have. And we discussed about it with the team, and I like the output. The first of all was about the proactive. Stephen Covey mentioned that the proactive as a first behavior for effective people. So we need to have a proactive person as a project manager. When we are talking about risk, when we are talking about schedule, we need to be proactive, and this should be in the mindset of the project manager. As Jesse mentioned, we are talking about an ideal project manager, not the project manager we want to be, the project manager that you need to be. And the other one is about the ownership. We need to take ownership about our people, about our decisions, about everything in the project. And this will shape another aspects in the mindset of the project manager. And if you are proactive, if you are if you have the ownership, but if you don't deliver value, if you don't think in value-driven, if you don't have a value-driven mindset, then it doesn't worth anything. So I think the third dimension, which complementary for the other dimension, is delivering value to yourself, to the people around yourself, to your planet. And that was why I think we need to have something differentiate, something unique in PMBOK 8 to focus on. Not 10 elements, not 10 dimensions, just 3-dimensional and core things to shape the project manager mindset.
Right.
Yeah. The intent here is to emphasize that project management is more about what you do. It's also about how you think. And with respect to, so there are two other questions here. With respect to compressing from 12 to 6, that was what all of you as practitioners told the PMI after the 7th edition. 12 is too many. We heard that a lot. It was in the data, it was in the feedback. And so what we began then to do was a mapping exercise. Okay, if we need to refine these principles, how do we refine them in a way that preserves some kind of a mindset, but also isn't too noisy? And so with respect to risks, there was a 7th edition principle around risks. We just said, let's just make that, we don't need to mention that as a principle because we're going to be describing it as a performance domain. Tailoring, that was another principle. We don't need to mention that as a principle because we have an entire section on what tailoring is. And there we can describe the considerations, and we can describe the thought process around tailoring. And so the reason why we compressed was because of the community feedback. The how was through a mapping exercise to remove any duplication. And one of the more controversial ones was around quality. So quality is no longer the way it was in the 6th edition knowledge area, nor is it a 7th edition performance domain. It's embedded into everything we do. So quality is inside the scope performance domain. And as an example, each of the principles have an example in action, which would be, for example, a company is expanding its wholesale shipping services to support an unfamiliar regional market. A conventional approach would focus on meeting the shipping specifications for each market, ensuring compliance with regulatory requirements. In contrast, a quality-driven approach would investigate the expectations of the broader stakeholder system, including distributors and retailers. With that deeper analysis might reveal that high-value customers have stricter demands than the government. And so that's just one example in the quality principle of applying that mindset to conventional practice. Conventional practice is meet the regulatory requirements. But embedding that quality mindset into everything we do, not just in the scope domain, but in all the domains, is about going to that next level. So that's the why the compression, the how the compression, and an example.
Right. Good. Do you want Jesse and Ruzbe, if we go through this page 259, probably just
what this is a big mystery. What is page 259? Is he going to give us, ladies and gentlemen? What's behind the curtain?
It's that mapping table, how we map the processes from the 7th edition to, with the processes, in the 8th edition, or the principles. Sorry, how we map to the principles. Sorry, how we map the principles from the 7th edition, and we merge them into the principles in the 8th edition. How does that sound? Quickly,
yeah,
maybe.
If you could show it, we can talk about it.
I have it. It's on. If you see it.
Oh, this one, yeah.
Like we have 6 slides. 6 slides because and each slide is touching on one of the exactly on one of the principles. So
I'll tell the story, Ahmed. The story was we knew we needed to compress. 12 was too many and too confusing. So how do we do that? And Rosba, I believe you were on the activity where the team came together in a virtual whiteboard, and we put all the 12 principles from the 7th edition. We also put some of the old performance domains up there, and we just did a mind map. And we moved them around as sticky notes on a whiteboard online. And there were about 5, 6, 7 groupings that emerged, like the holistic view, for example, here. The complexity. Those of you who haven't heard of the term VUCA.
Velocity, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity.
That term is meant, it's a reason why it's an acronym coming together, is because these are all the nuances of the same bleh. It's all the ick. It's all the, uncertainty, volatility. Bleh. So it made sense that this is the VUCA principle, that in a VUCA world, we want a holistic view, zoom out to the big picture. And the big picture, does it matter that my project plan is changing again? Well, have you submitted the project change request? Is it going in front of the proper change review board? This is the process. It's okay. It's okay. It needs to change. It's okay. Zoom out. And so this is just one example of that mind mapping exercise where we started grouping things together. The other one was around being an accountable leader. If you flip to that slide.
Accountability and leadership. Let me see. Quality. Here's the one.
This was another one where it just seemed that these were telling a similar story and they could easily be combined together. Rosebud, what do you remember from that exercise? What seemed to be the most natural and what seemed to be the most difficult of the arranging of and the refining of the principles?
I think the difficulties is about sometimes we didn't know what are the wordings. I actually don't remember exactly, but I see that there are some complexity on what is the wording and what are we doing, what are we using for example, the steward. What is the caring steward? What does it mean? And then we talked together about demonstrating the leadership behavior, diligent, respectful, and then we come together and then we mentioned that I think every person in the project, in every position, needs to demonstrate some leadership, needs to be an accountable leader. And an accountable leader is respectful, is a respectful person, is a caring person. So then based on that, we come to this new principle that we can merge these two together because there are some overlap, there are some confusion on some of the wordings. This is a bit vague. Even when I'm teaching that principle, the steward one, it was a bit hard to describe it to people. What does it mean? But when you merge these together and now you are talking about being an accountable leader, it is totally different now.
Yeah, one of the things, one of the benefits of having a global team is that you quickly discover the American bias. And for example, we discussed the change of the definition of a project from endeavor to initiative. Gabriele, who is Lithuanian, said that endeavor is it's a confusing word. Initiative is much more of a natural word, and it might be the difference between a Latin word versus an Old English, Middle English word. Likewise with steward. Steward was another word that the non-native English speakers got. What is this? What is this? I don't even know what this means. And so the global English was something that became a recurring standard for the standard. Is the English in this standard more global than it is either Anglican or North American?
Right. I personally, for example, myself, when I read the word steward in the PMBOK 7 2021, it took me a while to be able to explain it to my audience because I teach, I help people prepare for the PMP exam in 3 different languages. I teach in English, in French, and in Arabic. And it was not always easy to find the translation to the other languages. And even in English, it took a while to explain to other people who are not used to it. Okay. Right. So we can see that now. What's your? I mean, we can deep dive into this if you want. Really, Jesse, Daniel, Rusbe, we can deep dive. It's up to you guys. You tell me, like, go back to that particular slide. But just question from my side. What was the overall satisfaction with these changes? I call them improvements, to be honest. Let me be honest. As a practitioner, I see that they fit more into our vision and the way how we see projects and project management should be approached as project management practitioners. And I'm really satisfied, to be honest, to a very big extent, to a big degree. I'm satisfied with the changes that have come, in this book. And Daniel, really, I want to hear from you as well. Daniel, you've been there, in the project management industry for more than 2 decades. I really want to hear from you this because you are one of the first people who read the PMBOK 8. You and I had a discussion, a few weeks ago. You told me that every bit of it, every word of it. What was the overall satisfaction? Now, this session is helping people, get feedback from the core team, the leads. But what was your discussion? Your own satisfaction. How satisfied are you? First of all, as members and chairs of the core team, and what was the overall satisfaction inside PMI, and then from the outside of PMI?
Well, let's start with Daniel because he's a proper project manager.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it anyway. No, first of all, thank you, guys. I am blown away. This has been such a great conversation. Just seeing these little nuances and the things and the mindset. I could only imagine what it would have taken to put this together. So awesome job. As a project management practitioner, this is one of the greatest advancements I've read. I felt like when I got done reading this, I read it once through, and then I read it a few different times. I love the mindset. I love the focus on value because that's what we do at the end of the day, right? And it was nice to see, especially a lot more examples because at least from the few thousand project managers I've talked to in the last year or so on the few different things I'm working on, you just addressed a lot of the questions that they asked me, and I didn't have a good answer for them because I just read the book like everyone else. And they wanted more examples that they understood, and not only themselves, but they see that the business has done a better job, or at least maybe not a better job, but the world outside the project manager, the people we interact with on a daily basis, they see that project managers deliver value at the end of the day. It's not just like you said, deliver these things, make this product. That's all well and good, but is it being used? Like all the things that come with value. And I couldn't agree more. This is, at least from my perspective, it has been one of the most transformative books I've read on project management. And you could just see the work and see through the pages, the development that you guys had put through this, very much like my own conversations I've had with other project manager professionals, Ahmed included, and just kind of moving I feel like, to put it simply, I feel like this is exactly where we're at right now as a profession, like this, and going into the future. Like this is exactly where we're at. It has taken so much of the great foundational stuff over the last 40, 50 years, but it's really brought us into the 21st century and set a stage for project management to really be recognized outside of our own little world for the true professionals that we are. And to me, that was certainly, and the mindset as well, combining those 2 things. That's the thing that I was the most excited for, because I could already see conversations in the business world changing because of this. People are now taking a different look. They may have or may not have already said some of these things, but here is a group of people, tens of thousands of people that have come together and agree that this is kind of where we are, or this is where we are. And now the business, I'm seeing the businesses change, and that's all we could ask for some of this. And again, all of the PMs I've talked to, they love this. They feel this is exactly where we're at now. This is the transformation that's come over the last few decades, and this is really setting the stage for a very successful future for the profession.
Wow. Like, okay, I think we're done.
Right. Like I got even more exciting just saying all that stuff, man. Like this has been, and just working with Ahmed over the last few months, man. Like, and hearing his passion for project management, and the two of you, Gabrielle, and so many. Like, I'm just excited to be a project manager, even more so now that this book really.
This is a good time to be a PM.
Yeah, absolutely.
The skill, the discipline, the craft is seeing an upswing.
Yeah.
I think the current leadership team at PMI is absolutely helping advance the industry, the community. That's great.
Yeah.
But not everybody agrees with Daniel.
No, I've got some naysayers as well.
When you were reading through the 18,000 comments we received on the draft, what was the one that was most critical that you remember? Most critical, most hurtful, most polarizing. Imagine reading through 18,000 comments where it's like, this is wrong. No. So which one comes to your memory, Ruzba, as being not as friendly as Daniel's comments?
I absolutely. If I want to mention, there are some comments about you are ruining the project management at all, something like that. You're destroying everything, and I want to mention that the project management is not just for one person. It is not just going to demonstrate one idea, and I learned it. I saw it in the development team. Sometimes I had some opinion on something, and I saw that other people saw that differently. So when I saw those comments, I was thinking how this person thinking about the project management. If the person thinks that the project manager is just that person, what he does or what she does, I can't understand. And actually, some of those comments are very, very, I can't say anything about that. Maybe Jesse can complete it.
Yeah. There will always be the haters and the detractors. What was our job, what we volunteered to do, was to find the 2% of truth in all the criticism. And there was, for example, the Avengers comment made us think a little bit about adding in some language that, okay, you're not supposed to be an expert in all the disciplines: product management, financial management, procurement management, executive presence. You're not supposed to be an expert in all these things, but you will be called upon to fill gaps. There was another comment that said that there were some comments where they wanted to offer their critique on the whole document inside one single comment. So there was, instead of saying, please correct the spelling of this, it said, please correct the spelling on the following 14 lines. And it was like, so there was a difficult amount to tease through. I think the most common concern that I keep hearing is, why are we changing so many editions? Why can't this be the last edition? And if you're changing the principles every 4 years, what makes me confident that these principles are even worth considering? Because the caring steward now is gone. So I don't need to be a caring steward anymore. No, you need to be an accountable leader. It's the same idea with more refined language. And the answer is because that's the ANSI standard. The accrediting body behind the PMI's PMBOK guide is the ANSI organization, and they require every 4 to 5 years a new update to the standard in order to reflect the current state of practice. And I was at the Phoenix Global Gathering back in just last month, where we were having a conversation about this, and one practitioner said, "I feel like you changed the name from knowledge areas to from process groups to knowledge areas. You changed this from complexity to holistic. You just changing things to change things." And our response to that is, we are not making the change. The market is making the change. Number one, there's the marketplace of projects out there that are changing the expectations of project managers. And number two, there's the market of you, the audience, the practitioner, who gave feedback that said the 7th edition should change to have those processes. It should change to have those old knowledge areas of scope and schedule.
Jesse, I wanna just tell you something. When Pierre and PMI, both on PMI's page and Pierre Lemenu, announced on LinkedIn last year, 20th of December, 2024, I remember that day, like today, that they're opening for reviews, for feedback from, on the draft. Something really popped to my head, and I said, I appreciate this. Really, I appreciate listening to us, hearing us, asking us for feedback. We had Lee Lombard, Daniel and I had Lee. I think Daniel, we had Lee, I think 2 months ago, something like that. Okay,
Yeah,
one of those.
2 months ago. Yep.
Yeah, and he explained to us, before the PMBOK 1996 was released, since 81, how they drafted for the PMP, since the early papers, white papers, all of that. Now, I think what happened last year and early this year is tremendous, is big. Gabriela, a few weeks ago, explained to us how all the people, the core team went through those thousands and thousands of comments, and they were splitting them in groups and trying to address them. Honestly, I appreciate that. So if right now on 9th of December 2025 there is still someone who doesn't agree, who's not happy, I have a question to that person. First of all, did you share your feedback? Did you give your opinion? Did you, like, for example, try suggest an improvement or not? That's one thing. Okay. And second thing, did you come up with something probably better? I'm not saying it's perfect. It is so good. Always, there will be always, as Jesse just said, with ANSI, the American National Standards Institute requiring improvements or changes to adapt to the market evolution every 4 to 5 years. So really, now let me say something before we touch just one last point about project management versus product management. Let me say this to everyone. Look, this is such a great effort from a team, and behind that team there is another team, and behind that another team there's an organization, and there are reviewers from all over the world. Now it's up to every project manager to really take that and apply it to a certain extent on their projects, their initiatives, their products, their services, etc. So really it's up to everyone. These standards, see, this book, let's say this book, this guide, these standards will help everyone speak almost the same language, understand each other. So whether you're from Kenya, Brazil, whether you're from Mongolia, whether from Sweden, wherever you come from, you guys can speak the same language. When I say changelog, you understand what changelog is, what a WBS is, what a backlog is, etc. We wouldn't be struggling to understand each other. And as Rusbe said and Jesse said, they try to speak a common English language, global English, rather than American or British. That's really something I wish people could take into consideration when trying to put this into practice. I'm not going to go back to that satisfaction part, but I want to touch on this last one before we take a couple of questions.
Before this, I want to add one thing, Ahmed, because there were some questions on that. I want you to know there were 2 rounds of review.
Yeah, correct.
So not just one round in December. And I think this was for the first time that we have 2 rounds of public review. I don't know Jesse, but we had another round, and we received several comments for the another round, because I saw in the LinkedIn that there wasn't another one, and it took 11 months after receiving feedback, but there were some another one.
Yeah, there were 2 rounds. The second round of feedback focused on the standard. That was the ANC process. So the first round of feedback was the PMI process, where we took feedback on both halves of the document, standard and the body of knowledge. That yielded nearly 8,000 comments. The second round focused only on the first part, the standard, the principles, the system for value delivery, the focus areas. That yielded another 9,000 comments.
Yes.
And even all of that was in addition to the internal review team offering us dozens and dozens of comments each round that we were going. So this had internal validation, as well as broad validation, as well as the ANSI validation around it. So there were 3 rounds of around that. So far, I can share that we're seeing the community generally, to your point, Ahmed, the community is responding well to this edition because we listened to them, because we gave them what they asked for. The community asked for processes. We gave them back processes that were not copy-paste from the past, but were refined for the present. They asked for those process groups to be brought back, and we brought them back, not copy-paste, but refined for the present. Same with the principles. They asked those to come back, principles, and same, not copy-paste, but refined. And so it reflects not just the current practice, but also the current need of what the community is asking for. And because of that, we're seeing a lot of positive feedback, much less controversial than the 7th edition.
Correct. Confirm that.
There was one colleague of mine who builds airports. He's a project manager, mega project manager, and I asked him. I said, "Would you like to be the co-chair for this project?" And he says, "I don't see how in the world you will be able to integrate the 7th edition with the 6th edition. I can't wrap my head around how that's possible. Best of luck." And I'm pleased to say that we have since talked about and like, well, okay, we did it. This was not easy, and it was not a task that we took lightly. But so far, what we're hearing from people is this is what it needed to be. Yeah.
Really great effort. I'm serious. Like really, we've been following closely with this, and I think it's such an honor that really PMI. I think the biggest platform where PMI is addressing people is on LinkedIn. I don't know, Jesse, really, just before talking about project management versus product management, did PMI do the same effort on the other platforms like Facebook or Instagram or I don't know, Twitter, X, whatever, or was it mainly addressing people on LinkedIn? Really, if you know, I don't know if you know.
Say that. Ask the question again.
Yeah, I was wondering when PMI was asking for people's opinions for reviews on drafts, was it mainly addressing the people who are on LinkedIn through peers page, PMI's page, or was it also doing the same on the other platforms like Facebook or X?
There is an official process to offer feedback. The official process is through PMI's website, and the policy is that comments are only formally considered by the team if you go through the process. And then what we did is we tried to promote awareness. We said the window for comments is open. Please submit your comment. And Pierre, he posted on his LinkedIn. I sent out a newsletter to all of my followers, an email newsletter saying, please submit your thoughts and comments. Because we're not permitted to make a change that does not have a comment attached to it. And that's part of the auditability of the standard. So no, we did not respond to the noise on social media. We only use social media to. It's important. It's important to clarify, because some people are concerned when they get into these debates with Pierre, because Pierre is very active on social media, particularly LinkedIn, and you start getting into these debates, and you're just like, ooh, give him a left, boom, okay, give him a right, boom, and you're watching it, and you're like, is this what's going to go into the PMBOK guide? No, it's okay. This is just a debate.
So okay. So it's what to say. All right. So the announcement was mainly made on LinkedIn, to the LinkedIn community, because it's probably the one that is most concerned with this. And then they had to follow the official channels. All right, that's clear. That's why I always wanted to show people on LinkedIn that's really, LinkedIn is bringing you a lot of value. Now, if we talk just quickly about is project management now mainly about developing products? That's first question. Even though we know that actually we can have projects to create, services, deliver results, create other forms of deliverables in these different initiatives. So I think the current project management in PMBOK 8 does not address only product development. That's one question. And second question, is there a clear, distinction between product management and project management in the current version, the new one?
Rosba?
I think one of the main debates we had is about the distinguishing between project management and product management. There's always a fight between these two concepts. For example, I was working in e-commerce industry, and the product managers think that project management is not for us. They don't need to know anything about the project management. So first of all, I think we define this in the new version clearly, that there are some relation between product and project, program, and portfolio. And I think we have a section for that. And I saw many people highlight this as an advantage of the PMBOK 8, because I think these two, project management and product management, are knowledge, and every person who is involved in the project needs to have both of those. And there are some relations between product and project. I really want to be in one of the webinars Jesse had. He has a very excellent topic. I didn't have a chance to participate in that, and I would like to be in one of those. The name is Project. Okay. So Jesse, I know that you want to mention something about that, and because I think we passed the time, please.
Yeah,
Jesse.
So I've been facilitating a conversation about the product versus project management debate, which I believe is a false debate. So I'm going to get into my opinion now. This is not the opinion of PMI or any of my clients or employers. I think it is counterproductive and a waste of time to debate product management versus project management. They are complementary disciplines. If you take a look at the pragmatic product management framework, which is the most popular product management framework in the industry, there are, I believe it's 42 competencies across 7 disciplines. And now we've got, in the PMBOK guide, we've got 40 processes across 7 performance domains. There's a lot of overlap there. And it tends to be less about the techniques and more about the mindset. And one of the commenters asked originally, what's the difference of value from a product perspective versus a project perspective? And I think that the history, the trend in the marketplace was that traditionally project managers have only focused on getting it done. Remember, we talked about that 40-year-old definition of a project on the product, the service, the result. But product managers and product management has been influencing our community influencing the marketplace for the last 20 years, where now the marketplace is asking ROI, value, impact, project success, is it worth it? And because the product community has impacted the marketplace, now the marketplace is impacting the project community, so that now we're beginning to engage with a persona mapping, which we used to call stakeholder inventory. We're beginning to engage with a roadmap, which we used to call integrated master schedule, or beginning to take a look at what overall cost benefit analysis and ROI, which we used to call cost benefit analysis. So in many cases, these are just simply different nuances to the same concept. But the general theme is that more and more the line is becoming blurred, and it's becoming much more of a gray area as to what the difference between the two disciplines are. Historically, they've been complementary, but more and more it's becoming very gray. There's a lot of overlap that's happening now.
Right, great. Wow, so many comments. I think, Daniel, this is the session where we receive the most comments. I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm not sure, but
if not, definitely top one or two. Everyone is loving this. And again, as usual, people are messaging me privately about how awesome this has been. So I don't know why they do that. But yeah, nothing but great feedback from my personal side as well as on the side. And again,
I just want to emphasize one thing, because really just cannot stay longer with us. He's got a commitment in a few minutes. I think in 5 minutes or 6 minutes. I really appreciate so much your presence, Jesse. And let me tell you why I appreciate that. I'm gonna say this for the first time. The knowledge I see behind what you say, really, I listen to each word you say. Wow, it's the first time I hear someone with such knowledge in project management. Honestly, no, I'm not like flattering. Really, really, you almost know every bit of the book, but not the book.
Yes,
practice.
your Bitcoin bribe is already on your phone.
Nice.
Really, I really thank you so much for sharing. I mean, I wish we could have much more time.
Well, now you have 4 more episodes with other members of the team who are equally knowledgeable and even better looking. So Rich Rinaldi was recently on television and a game show in the US, Wheel of Fortune.
Oh, wow.
So you have a TV star joining you in one of your upcoming episodes.
Wow, really such great leadership.
And all the others. So enjoy. It's going to be a fun treat, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, really. Thank you so much. Please feel free to leave in any moment you want. Jesse, it's really up to you. We need to take just a couple of questions. Again, feel free to leave whenever you want, Jesse.
All right. I'll be here for maybe only two more minutes, maybe time for one more question.
Yeah. All right. So really, I don't know, Daniel, if you had a chance to skim through the comments.
There was one comment who requested the link to a PDF copy of the PMBOK guide, and I wanted to encourage Daniel Ahmed, if you could put into the show notes the link to the PMI landing page, the PMBOK guide. If you are a PMI member in good standing and you log in, you have a free download of the PDF.
Yeah. Everyone on the show, it's really member exclusive, right? Just it's member exclusive.
That's right.
Yeah. But it's really, and by the way, just to let everyone know, we're going to share videos on LinkedIn. On YouTube. We start sharing videos on YouTube. We're going to share more videos explaining parts of the PMBOK 8, taking each time one part, trying to explain. We will do that to help the community better be prepared to manage projects. Now, really, just question for 1 minute, Jesse, and I'll let you leave. Then maybe we continue with Rusbe and Daniel for a few more minutes. From your point of view, as a long-standing project management practitioner, Jesse, is the PMBOK 8 fully applicable on projects in whatever industries, whatever countries, whatever companies?
The 6th edition had the tagline, the motto,
Yeah.
most projects, most of the time, benefit from the PMBOK 6. So PMBOK 6 was intended to be applied to most projects most of the time. If you could not say that a WBS would be useful for most projects, but then it doesn't meet the threshold, the bar for belonging in the document. The 7th edition was completely blown up and rebuilt from the bottom up and redone. And so I began to think that this might be the first one, the 7th, where it is intended to be applied to all projects all of the time. So, but the problem was it just wasn't very applicable. So
Right.
there wasn't the mechanics, there wasn't the explicit guidance that people were used to in the 6th edition. And so with the 8th edition, I do think we absolutely described it will the idea of finance management. The idea, is it true that a project manager should understand their funding for most projects most of the time? Because funding was never mentioned in the previous editions.
Correct.
And I think the answer is yes. You should know what is the funding structure in case you need to go back to the sponsor for more funding. You need to know what you're going to ask them. Are they going to have to get a line of credit? Are they going to have to go to a senior executive committee? Are they going to have to go find a joint venture? Are they going to have to sell stock? You need to be aware of these things. So I would say that absolutely, the content is intended to be appropriate for most projects most of the time.
Yeah.
And the standard is intended to be for all projects all of the time. I hope that it is more useful than people felt that the previous edition was. I hope that as they go forward, they will find the examples to be informative. But if you have any questions, ladies and gentlemen, about how to apply it I happen to know of a very well-regarded and successful PMP prep mentor who can walk you through all of those questions in a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
So yes, that's my hope.
Appreciate it. Really, thank you so much. And we hope to see you around on LinkedIn, on other platforms, Jesse. And we really wish to see more knowledge sharing from your side. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much, man.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank
All
you
the
so
best.
much.
Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Jesse.
Take your time, my friend.
Appreciate that. So, Ruzbe, really, I think we had such a great discussion. I went through most of the comments from the people because I have the tool here, which shows me that. And I think they were more like commenting on what was being shared rather than questioning. Actually, people really appreciated this. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Shauna Calhoun in particular. Really, thank you so much. She really, I don't think she left any part without commenting. Thank you also being part of the contributors to the PMBOK 8th edition. Ruzbe, I think the journey is still going. I think we will have more.
I invite every people to come for the next series because I think we have different stories in the next series from different people, different perspective, and I think it is interesting to hear those stories from those people who were involved. I want to talk about the challenges we had, about the debates we had, and for some specific subject like procurement, like quality, and I think it would be nice for all people. We want to clarify what happened and how we come to this structure. And I want to answer to your question to Jesse. I want to just give you one sentence. I think personally, PMBOK is not about being applicable to all projects in all time. I would say it's going to enhance project success, and you need to take what you need for your projects. these are the best practices that based on the project, based on the context, that's why we mentioned that projects are in a unique context, because each project, even they are similar, they have unique contexts.
Right. Thank you so much, Rusbe. So I think our next episode, Rusbe, is going to be with
Michael Hanan. I think he's fantastic.
Yeah.
I like Mike because he's a very good storyteller. I always just want to listen about the experiences he had in various projects. He was in NASA, and I think it's better to hear from him about the governance, about the scope and quality. So let's meet all of you in the next episode and session.
Everyone, we really look forward to meeting you next Tuesday. We will share the event on LinkedIn. It's gonna be with Mike. I think there is a lot we're gonna hear from Mike. We're gonna learn from Rusbe and Mike. Daniel and I have been really thrilled, to have you. Everyone, thank you so much, dear colleague Daniel, for helping with this. Thank you so much, really, Rusbe. We're glad, really, we're glad we're doing this all together, trying to really benefit the community. Everyone, see you on Thursday this week with Kelly Noya, who is the Vice President of Learning at PMI. And then Tuesday next week, we're going to have the second episode of this PMBOK 8 deep dive. Thank you, everyone, and see you soon. I'm ending the stream. Thank you. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Rusbe.
Thank you.